So.
All right, cool. It says this meeting is being recorded.
Yeah.
So it says, please ask the host to give you permission to record.
Oh, brother. Well, if I do that, I don't know if it'll record on mine. Maybe it will. Sorry, people.
That's okay.
Give us a minute here. You know how like Zoom and other stuff likes to change stuff all the time.
Thanks for inviting me, by the way.
Oh, thanks for coming. You were the
Yeah,
key
thanks
guest here.
thanks for coming on. I'm looking forward to this conversation and your take on things. And
I'm just gonna sit here. I'm a bystander.
Yeah, no, you're not.
Yes.
You're our equal.
No, well, I know, but you two have stuff to talk about. I'm just gonna sit here and watch you.
Oh
and then
gosh.
post it.
we'll need everybody's take. I don't know how good of a host I am, but
You're a great host. Go.
Just about getting information out there. Are you recording? You can just send me.
I think I sent you a thing. I'm recording. So while we're waiting, I'm just gonna say that thank you to Logan for like, I know you're doing a lot of work to help humanity, stuff that's like thankless work nobody knows about. And then trying to get people to your channel, but then it was blocked for a while. So
still is.
I of the heart, all one word, letter I of the heart. Go give Logan some love.
Yeah, appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny when you start diving into what really truth and freedom really looks like in a culture. The more you really see how opposite of that fact that it really is, so when you start digging in and understanding things, where things come from, where our culture has really actually come from, thousands of years of masters and slaves is basically what we've been living in. And I really feel like right now it's even worse than it was in the past, because what we have now is slavery in a form that nobody understands that it's actually slavery. They don't see it for that. It's like being a free range chicken. It's like you think you're free. You think that you can go places. You can get in your car and drive here, drive there. But at the end of the day, it's a slavery system. It's completely built that way. And it gets kind of scary, because when I really started understanding this to that level is when a lot of, panic or fear, anxiety starts to kind of roll around inside of that idea, because it's like, holy smokes, how far can this really go? Then you look back at the Holocaust and you can see what humanity really can do when it's at its worst. And so I guess the idea, what does real freedom and real truth actually look like? And I think that when we dive into the psychology of the human brain and the human mind, why this is so, and what can we do to reverse these effects. And I tell you, sometimes when I think about, holy smokes, reversing the effects of thousands and thousands of years of brainwashing, how is this even possible? It's like you kind of wake up and you're like, holy crap, I am in the middle of, like, you look around and see everyone around you, go like, you feel completely alone inside of that kind of feeling and that thought. But I hold a tremendous amount of hope that it's possible. And I think that more people that can have these types of conversations and get it out there to more people, whether it's on a YouTube channel, library, BitChute, Rumble, whatever, that it's super important. I never thought in a million years I'd be doing, podcast videos like this talking about truth. But I really feel it's a duty for every single person to do that, because yeah, we're standing at the very bottom of a very high mountain right now as a society, as a collective consciousness. We're very left brain, very into that, this slavery mentality and this order following world, order following, order taking, order giving type of world, which is really driving a wedge between real human consciousness and waking up and evolution, as opposed to, just this kind of, solipsistic way of thinking about life, which is very dangerous. So anyhow, I really appreciate talking to you guys. You both are putting, Annemarie, you're putting a ton of material out there, which is really awesome. Beverly, you're working with people in this regard individually every single day, helping humanity. And I super pumped to have this conversation with you guys. So I was kind of thinking what we could talk about today was just basically the psychology of a brainwashed culture, a brainwashed world, and why is this so? Like, why is this happening? And some key points as to why is this happening on a micro scale as an individual, and how it's happening on more of a macro scale with society, with our blended real consciousness, our one consciousness. Why are we allowing this polarization to really happen right now? If you guys have any info on that, that would be awesome.
A big one.
It is a big.
It is.
You said a
Um,
mouthful, dude.
Yeah. And I think the one thing that in reference to those who awaken uh, to the fact that we have been in this slave master relationship for, like when I first like fully realized that, um, it was like, trying to trace it back is like, oh my gosh, I was born into this. So, there was no frame of reference uh, prior. So how does that awakening come about? If I have no frame of reference, how did I finally realize that this is the society? This is what's going on in this society, and it's not just this society; it's this planet. Um, and that was pretty interesting. So there was, I think, upon that awakening, what I also realized is I went right into the mourning the loss of what everything I thought was true. And then that takes time. That's where that, it's like feels devastating. It's like, oh my gosh. And like we can't get out of it. Like you can't even go back to how did I let this happen? I've been conditioned that this is how things are here on this planet, in this realm. Where else I was going with that, but that was the thing that struck me upon awakening, and then looking back, I can see I've been busy ignoring things, because as an individual, I felt small, like I couldn't do anything about it. So I think that's when I started sinking into. As a child, I thought it was because I was a child, right? But then as I'm moving out into the world as a young adult, as a teenager, as a young adult, I just started, because I grew up with, Kennedy assassination, Martin Luther King, Robert Kennedy, all these things were going on. And I knew that what they were saying was not necessary, it was traumatizing, really. And so, I just remember as a teen, it crossed in my mind. When I'm thinking about like, where do I want to go in this world? What do I want to do with my life? And I thought to myself, well, I know if I go into politics, I'll get murdered, because just the way I am, the directness, because I want the truth. I didn't want the lies. I grew up in a household of bullshit, basically. So, that's kind of how I became the black sheep in that family, is by wanting to say the truth, wanting answers, the true answers. I didn't want to be lied to. I didn't want to be. But I think there's a lot of people out there like that. I also think there's a lot of people that maybe that never entered their mind at all, very docile human beings. Well, as long as you leave me alone, then I'm just going to go to work. But I also think it was designed this way. Looking back on it, is designed for us to be so distracted, we do not know that we are enslaved. The society set up that way. Who came up with 40 hours a week, along with taking care of yourselves? And then the whole gaslighting thing of, self-care while you're working 40 hours and raising a family and doing everything else. It's like, how many hours do you think I have in a day? But even more than that is, our society has been pushing us up to our heads instead of living in our hearts. Even starting with children who, Like I used to see fairies when I was little. Never dawned on me to tell anyone in my family. They never talked about anything like that on the spiritual nature, or on the spiritual plane outside of, what's happening. So I think we've been conditioned as a society to work in almost like a survival mode. And when you're in that mode, and so rely on these other people, white coats. I think that's a psychological operation. Trust the doctors, trust the authorities, without any balance. It's okay to trust, as long as it resonates with you. But that was never taught. The second part, the part that balances things up. I think too, like looking back, I know my youngest sister was one of the first Head Start kids. I don't know if you remember that. The government put in a program called Head Start. So now they're taking children at 4 years. Used to be just kindergarten. See how they move it ever so slowly, so you don't really think much of it. And a lot of parents are, thinking they're doing the right thing. That's funny. I just said thinking because, yeah, that's where they want us, is in our head. They're not feeling like maybe it's too, they're not checking with their own intuition on it or their own feelings about it. Does my child really, is this the right thing for my child? No, they just ship them all off because they're thinking this is the right thing. So conditioned to trust the government, or, well, we got that great illusion that we actually voted these people in to do this job and that they know their job. But what I'm seeing now is most of these people don't even know. The people in the government don't even understand what their job is, because we've just like let that go, and they're just making up their own rules up in there. I'm going, wow. So to get on this topic, you can see there's so many different layers. Time to sit quiet. How can you sit quietly? And then, what was spirituality? What was programmed to spirituality is to go into these churches on Sundays. There's where you speak to God. Really? Feels like another box to me, But then you see people, which would breed that hypocrisy that we see. Another form of separation. Separating us from ourselves. So I do feel kind of blessed. I was never like pushed into that too much. I don't even remember what the question was. I've just floated off in some.
Oh, that was great. You hit all these points that I have written out, which is what I believe, or I've seen, as to why we're in this conscious conundrum. You've laid out those points perfectly, and really what it's come down to. You've talked about eugenics, basically what you're talking about. You talked about Darwinism, basically. You just talked about that. You talked about and moral relativism. The idea that that truth and right and wrong is basically in the eye of each individual person, which is a complete farce. That's been pushed down our throats so hard for thousands of years, but really the past 150 years, they've really been cramming this idea, this solipsistic way of being and thinking, when really there's just an objective right and wrong. There is a right and there is a wrong. You cannot, that's the truth. That's the line of truth that goes through the universe. It was here before humanity. It'll be here after humanity. You cannot fight the laws of the universe. And what we're doing, and I feel like we're experiencing now, is we're living in a society where the rulers, or the people who think they are the rulers, they want to dethrone the natural order of the universe. And they're really trying to do that. These dark sorcerers think that they, have the right to conquer nature, and it's impossible. So at one point, whether humans really uprise against this and start to shift this consciousness to be more balanced between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, nature's going to do something. It's done this in the past, and there's a lot of evidence that we're finding human artifacts from millions of years ago. We're finding deep in strata from millions of years, complex gearing parts and tools and little girl dolls and things like that. Like, humanity has been doing this for a long time. I mean, it's like if you look at it from a linear point, which I'm not really into linear time so much, but we can use that as a reference point. It's been a really long time that humans have been cycling through this sort of psychological breakdown, psychological brainwashing. It's this, we're pushed into laziness. We want to stay lazy. And then while the big shots come in and say, well, I'm not lazy. I don't have a heart. I don't have any compassion. I don't care about love, but I can plan. And I know how to get a lot of people to do what I want them to do. And it always seems to go there. We always find we either have a monarchy, an oligarchy. We always find that we have to have some sort of authority over things. And that's built into that eugenics program, the eugenics mindset, which is basically saying, I have lesser genes. These people have more dominant genes. They bought that whole line of crap. And they just allow the people with the dominant genes to take over. Well, when that happens, guess what? You're going to have a society of slaves. I mean, you can't get away from that, right? And I have a problem with authority, to be honest with you. I really do, because it's an immoral thing. It's not moral. It's not morally right, because these people are taking orders from somebody else. So if they're getting an immoral order to do something like run into somebody's house and stick them with something, or, shove something up their nose, or they're going to do it, even they have no right to trespass into any, it's like completely breaking moral rights, right? So the government, man does not make these laws. Man doesn't make rules, but they have convinced everyone that they do. And that's part of the reason why we're in this conundrum right now,
Yeah, and that behavior that you just described, they don't have the moral right. What I was seeing was, that's no different than the behavior of what we call criminals that break into your house and steal your stuff.
Same thing.
Yeah,
just because they have a suit
rapists.
On, right? Yeah. Just because they got a blue suit on, or they're wearing, camo, and have lots of guns, doesn't give them the right to it's the same as anybody breaking into your house and taking anything without permission. And that's what they've been doing. And especially, I mean, this has really become so apparent with this whole, COVID thing, is that they're basically telling you, we're forcing our way in here. And if you keep on allowing us to do this, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And, really the way to change it is more people need to be having these conversations and getting them out there. So the fence sitters, or the people who are really awake that aren't saying anything, or they're keeping it to themselves, I have to say, it's really a duty. People have to understand their purpose and duty once they behold in truth, is that they have to get it out in some way or another, and encourage people to do the same thing, because that is growing in the ether. As we're having this conversation right now, there is an expansion in the ether of consciousness that is creating more balance the way that it really needs to be. And once this happens over a progression of years and years and years, I've had people ask me when I'm having this type of conversation, like in private, well, Logan, tell me what the future looks like. People who believe in government, people who believe in authority, that, they have their own fantastical ideas of, what the perfect, it should be like a democratic, liberal, blah, 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 and all this stuff. I'm like, I was like, if you really long-term, I kind of forgot where I was going there, but if you want to go long-term, and we don't know, I can't tell you what the future is going to look like 100 years from now. But what I can tell you is that once the conscious collective starts to find more balance, the answers will prevail themselves. And all the people who are on that line of thinking will make those steps to happen. The answers will come when they come. As we've been totally sold into this. We have to plan everything out. We have to have, X, Y, Z this year, do this, do that, have all our finances set, have our career set, have a plan, have a big plan. Well, I'm telling you, I don't see the universe operating as this big plan. It has laws, and we have people here that are here to interpret these laws, flow within them, and the abundance will follow. When we fit in ourselves, humankind, inside of the laws of nature, or natural law, or the universal law, we understand these things, we can flow with them and use the power that they have, because they're there to give people a compass It's a compass so people can use as a guide for abundance, not just for one person. This is about the collective, because we're all in the same ship together here, and it's sinking it sinks at the same time. It takes the entire ship to do what they need to do to self-correct. One person is not going to just attain enlightenment, and screw everybody else. No, this is about the aggregate of society. This is about everybody coming together and achieving enlightenment together. This is how we create a society of sentient beings. And this is what our true purpose is. I can't say it loud enough. We're here to evolutionize in consciousness, become more aware, and it's not going to happen as long as there's slavery. So what does the future look like? I can't tell you what 1,000 years or 100 years or 50 years looks like. I can tell you what it looks like from right now if we let it keep going, which is indefinite slavery for a long time. So anyway, sorry, I went up on a tangent there a little bit.
So you guys are saying all this stuff, you're forcing me to talk,
Talk,
bringing all
talk,
these brilliant ideas out here and information. But going back to like the whole freedom, slavery, closed system thing, when you think about something like that, or even think about like flat earth, if you believe in flat earth and there's a dome, it's almost claustrophobic. And so like you were saying, Beverly, you wake up out of that and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? But I think that the key is empowering ourselves. We are vast, limitless beings, bringing more soul energy through. There's no ridiculous closed system that's going to be able to hold us once we realize that. But the problem is what you were talking about with Hitler and humanity going to the dark side. This is a product of mind programs and voice to skull technology, whatever they're using now, 5G. They're doing mass population mind programs to help us get to the point where we believe humanity is bad, and they've succeeded in that for a very long time. So we're bad. These bad thoughts we're having are ours. We're not good enough. I'm not able to. So then nobody's going to speak out because, well, I don't really know. I need somebody to tell me I'm not good enough. We're bad. And that's like the whole key to everything is disempowering us. And through manipulation, like you're talking about, and using technology and all these things, and they've been doing it forever. And like, what can we do to reverse the effects of all this? I think it's just to realize that, but also truth. Truth is what helps you wake up. So like Beverly was talking about having no frame of reference. You're just born in here and it's like, what do I do? Well, you wake up through experiences and your inner knowing, and then truth helps, because when you get those little pieces of truth, it blasts through anything. You can't argue with it. So finding truth, and that's, I think it was all coming down to is us empowering ourselves. And when we recognize that, it's like we don't have to go to 5D. We don't have to go here. We don't have to escape. We don't, because it's, oh my God, it's a closed system. We're slaves. And what do you want to do? You want to get out. And I think true ascension is us getting out of this whole thing and going back to where our soul is, our spark is. But it's like, but in the meantime, let's create a better reality, because we might be moving towards the real earth. We might be deconstructing this mind program and getting back to the real earth, or let's make the mind program better. I mean, because we're all souls here, the plants and the animals, all this is souls. So it's all coming down to empowering and realizing that we can create that future. But all these layers that you're talking about, even not just mind programs, literal mind programs of society, and all of these things that are burying us. So I think maybe the answer, we just need to remember who we are. And once we do that, and that we are essentially good, souls are essentially good, and not look at the actions of like a robotoid that has no soul, and these beings that you're talking about controlling everything and making us believe that we are them and they are us. It's not true. I don't think anything can hold us down, but I do think that we have to stay where we are. You are here, and I don't want to sound like a new ager. You're here now, be here now. But I mean, you are here. So what are we going to do here? Not how are we going to escape and go to 5D or ascension and newer, like all this stuff. It's like, okay, that's just wanting to escape, and it's another mind program, I think. So anyway, I don't know what I'm saying, but I think I know what I'm saying.
It is, and it's kind of a distraction too, because that's one of the ways that they keep us from ourselves is like, dangling all these sparkly things around us. Even lifestyles can be a sparkly thing that they dangle, and like you said, Annemarie, the that constant message, and this is through media, through schooling, through um, learned behaviors from the family, that we're not good enough. I think the Bible says something about we're born with sin, right? It's like, oh, great. I'm already like filled with shame. Uh, when I get here, I've got this dark overlay that's not even mine.
Maybe they're talking about themselves, the ones that are wrote the Bible and following it.
Well, the whole thing feels like we've been in a relationship with a psychopath. A lot of gaslighting, a lot of projection, a lot of all these things, all these overlays on in order to keep you small so you don't go anywhere, right? But you said something else too, and that was I was like looking at when you're talking about like real earth. I think it's here. I think it has been overlaid. Um, Ironically, when I was tripping one time, I became very aware of how we have separated ourselves from Mother Earth with all these sidewalks and streets, all this cement separating us. Shoes, sidewalks, cement, parking lots, cities. You have like a little Band-Aid size strip of grass along the way, when nature is who we are. I mean, we are organic, natural beings. And so to somehow, like take the jobs from the rural areas and put them, combine them in the city areas, which then draws people into the city rather than, I mean, we have just in the United States here, you ever drive across country? We have a lot of land. We could all have our own space with our own food growing. I mean, it could be quite pleasant for everyone, but instead it's all this pressurized into cities, and then separated from your own mother, which is Mother Earth, and then ungrounding us, pushing us further up into our head, which is only meant to be a tool, not the guiding light. Our light is in our core. And they've done everything to like separate the two. That's why all the programming get you up in your head. Fear will bring you up there. And so there's been a lot of fear mongering. All these false flags are, they create, well, they're done usually for multiple reasons. And one is to make everyone else scared too. And so that we're more compliant. And I thought, boy, 9/11, for example, I was stunned at how, and I was trying to be busy ignoring all this too, but I literally was stunned at how quickly Homeland Security swooped in, became, I had lived long enough to see how slow the government appears to move. Absolutely sluggish speed. And yet Homeland Security was put in place almost like it was on the sidelines ready to go. And now I'm getting patted down at the airport. It's like strangers have the right to put their hands on my body. And I'm thinking, well, I've got to get busy doing something else because, you know, this is bothering me. That's my training.
Well, people that have grown up with that as normal, because
Yeah.
they weren't alive maybe around that time, or they were a kid, or so they're not even thinking twice about it.
Nope, that's how they do it. It's incrementalism was what I think the term for it is. And, you know, like if you're born into a society like that, you don't think twice about it. Now, like
That's
Beverly,
right.
you knew it from a very early age. I think that people, I don't know what the mechanism is for it, but there are spirits here living in a body, you know,
Mhm.
together in a body, having this conscious expression that just automatically know that something's amiss, no matter what happens or how much the brainwashing doesn't work with them. And you see, there's a lot of people that are really talking truth now, not anywhere near that need to be, but I think there's something to do why these souls come into play, because it's like it's a counterbalance. It's like nature, like it's almost how nature works. Maybe we could say is that, you know, without these spirits coming in and applying this conscious energy to the ethereal consciousness, that it would be a complete collapse. The humanity would just tumble down and just be no more, right? So I think that when I have these conversations and I see other people having these conversations, I go, man, this is happening for a reason. You know, I think just more people need to be more motivated about talking about it and not be afraid to speak your truth. That's the one thing I think that holds people back, held me back for a long time. I'm like, I was too worried what people were going to think of me. What are my coworkers going to think? You know, like they think I'm somebody because of our conversations, but then yet they're going to see me doing videos and posting stuff on social media and be like, what, who is this guy? You know, like, you know, but once I got over that kind of idea, like, you know, no, the most important thing is truth. That is the most important thing. The number one priority in this world is what is truth, and how do we uncover it? How do we unbury it? You know, and I think that should be everyone's main priority in life, is what's true, because once you start to understand that, then everything else starts to fall into play. And it's a rough road, but I mean, you can start to understand strong moral principles, what's really actually right morally and what's wrong. And then you can begin to teach your children these things, and then they can grow up knowing when things are not right, like wearing face masks and being patted down at an airport and a million other things that are completely immoral. They'll know this. And our generation, like my young kids here, are going to grow up teaching other people like, hey, like this is not right, you know? So, you know, I feel fortunate that I feel comfortable about talking about this, and with my kids and my family, because boy, they know what mind control is. They know what, you know, they know about all these things. And we'll watch movies and I'll point all this stuff out to them. Like, let's watch a Disney movie tonight. I want to show you what they're doing to you as we're watching this together, so you can see. It's to a point now where they can pick out some of the stuff and they can notice it. So I don't know.
Your kids are going to be like the world leaders of the future.
Yeah, well, they got to get over I'm telling you, it's still it's some of the things too that makes me wonder, like, you know, with the kids, the typical kid behavior that kind of gets me frustrated, but they have the knowledge there. And as I'm growing and learning more stuff and trying to show them these things, you know, I'm hoping that by the time they get to be teenagers in their 20s, they're going to really be like, you know, powerhouses with, you know, truth and feeling comfortable in their skin and really becoming that full spiritual expression that we're meant to be, and passing that torch, you know, for humanity too, you know. So
Yeah, I agree. I think that like some of the truth is definitely going to free you, but also empowerment. And then like Beverly's saying, that whole key of separation, like even the sidewalks, they're preventing us from communing with nature, because nature is, like was saying, souls. Plants have souls, the animals have souls. There's no difference in them. And we're stronger together when we're communing with them. And pushing us into the cities, so that's where the big mind control programs are. It's a lot easier just to do it at a mass level than have to do it individual by individual, unless it's somebody speaking out or a celebrity or something, then they got to really focus on them. But yeah, so separation's the other key, because I really do feel like we're stronger together. And I find it interesting that like just the three of us were in completely different states in the United States. And then on my channel, people all over the world getting on there. It's like we have to find each other, like, where are you? Because they have us all separated. But I think we're all here as warriors to turn this system on its head and find the real earth, or to take, at the very least, take this whole construct down. And in the meantime, have a more pleasant experience. But I think empowerment and realizing that all the things that you think that are bad those are implanted. It's like, if you start to separate from that, it's like, okay, that's not me. Then you can become more empowered. You do know, you will remember, you will awaken, you can do this. It's like, so empowerment, this is like a little bug, this reality, compared to our vastness. It's just like, oh, what is this nonsense? But we have been beaten down so far that we think we're the bug. And so it's like separation, truth, and empowerment. I think all those are gonna turn it on its head.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. That's what's going to create real true freedom for people. And people really have to become warriors, like you said. I mean, remembering the true warrior that we are, and as individuals that, we are warriors, and we have forgotten that we actually have this ability and this capacity to use our spiritual strength and knowledge to combat anything that comes our way. And we've gotten lazy, and I had totally accused of the laziness too. Like I got into this role for a period of my life where I was just kind of like, I knew everything was completely, corrupt and bad. I'm like, well, you just leave me alone, and I'm going to be right here, and I'm going to just get through and be an individual, and everyone else. I did have a kind of a solipsistic mentality with things. And when I really understood that's the way I was thinking, that's when I was like, it was like a being banged over the head with a pan, because it took a lot. It was a hard truth for me to swallow. Like I was participating in satanic mind beliefs, mind things that they've been throwing out at me without even knowing that's the way I was being. But then I started remembering this warrior, this feeling of this fighter that needs to come out and needs to be able to say things. And it's just basically coming out and talking about it. I think that will create a huge change. And of course, self-empowerment, doing things that are healthy for us, healthy mindset, healthy food, healthy, all of these things, doing things to counteract the 5G technology, the cell phones, the Bluetooth, the radio waves. There's ways to do this, and looking into these and understanding that it really is affecting our mentality. It's dumbing people down, learning about this stuff and researching how they can live a healthier life, right? Because what goes in, garbage goes in, garbage comes out. We're like processors. We're not much different than computers, that we can get fed bad programming, and the only thing that's going to come out is bad programming. So we need to start putting in the good programming, and then the good stuff starts coming out. It's important.
You just made me realize something when you said lazy. You are pretty lazy, but anyway, I'm just kidding. Of course, you were just coping. I mean, but when Beverly said, did you say we were born with sin? Is that what it says in the Bible? Okay, so it made me think of the 7 deadly sins. Isn't laziness or sloth one of them? So maybe we're born with the programming. We're born with who knows, maybe even implants.
I got a point to say in that. I'm glad you brought that up, because I've got
it to us. We you're born with our programming. It's not you.
Right. Well, that's a good point, because I wrote down the real 7 deadly sins. Those like pride, sloth, anger, all that stuff. That's Hollywood. That is not the real 7 deadly sins. That was put into our brains. Those are vices. And you can look this up on Google. It will say
from them. It's not us.
No, it's not us. So those.
Give me the real ones. I'm going to write them down.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you what they are right now. These are the real 7 deadly sins. It's murder, assault, rape, theft, trespass, coercion, and lying. These are the real 7 deadly sins. And the reason why is because they are not moral behaviors. There are actions. We're talking about actions here. So, and I want to talk real quick about what apophatic inquiry is, because this is an ancient form of understanding what is moral and what is immoral. And there's a million things that are right action, that are morally right. People are confused now because they don't really know, well, how do I judge if this is moral or immoral? Because this is where the brainwashing of moral relativism comes into play here, okay? Truth is objective. Morals are objective. Right action is objective. Like I said, they were here before human and they'll be here after human. But the 7 deadly sins, you can use apophatic inquiry and ask yourself, is my thinking, my emotions, my behavior, and my actions, will this create harm to another sentient being? And you ask yourself, most people fit into the category of coercion and lying, right? So it's like, if I'm going to say something to somebody for my own agenda, and I'm going to lie to them so that I get what I want, but it doesn't matter what happens to them as long as they just think that I'm going to do this. That lying can create harm to that person because you're potentially putting them in a position to make a decision based on your lie. You know what I mean? That can cause harm to another human being. Coercion, like look at what's happening now in our world. We're being coerced into everything. The government is completely going immoral and just coercing everybody into wearing masks and taking jabs, and they're just shoving it down people's throats. It's like, whoa, wait a second here. That's one of the 7 deadly sins. And they are perpetrating this fervently every single day. And that's what the government does. Every single one of these is what the government's doing. The 7 deadly sins. They're murdering, they're assaulting, they're raping, they're stealing, they're trespassing, they're coercing everybody, and they're lying to everybody every day on the media. You can't get any more like immoral than that. And these are the people who think they rule.
That's very interesting. Wow. So that's brilliant, because it's the qualities of these soulless beings, these controllers, and that's exactly what they'll do. They will just go murder. Whereas a soul has that implant in them. You want to murder this person, the mind program, but the soul will evaluate or analyze. Okay, do I want to do this? I don't really want to do this. This really isn't me. Where a soulless being will just go do it. It's not even like, God, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Won't even think about it. So yeah, you can see these people. I mean, like, I even have questions about the whole Miami building collapse the other day, which I was pretty close to there when that happened, not too many miles away. And buildings just don't collapse like that. You know what I mean? That's just, I don't know if you've seen that. It was like
They were
complete
going
implosion. And I'm like, well, here,
that guy that died.
yeah, John McAfee. Well,
Yeah.
see, there's this sort of conspiracy thing that they're talking about. He's related with all this, but I question that. You know what I mean? I think that's more of the programming, getting people, the distraction Beverly was talking about, their greatest distractions. Let's, kill John McAfee. He's an elite. He's like Epstein. It's like the dude is an elite. He's not going to steer off the program. He's not going to be trying to really get real information out there. He's completely controlled. Same with, Elon Musk and Bill Gates, completely controlled. Anything that these people say that sounds like they're like counteracting real truth or trying to get to real truth and help humanity, falseness, in my opinion.
Yeah, because if you notice his dead man switch, where is it?
Yeah,
supposedly.
Right. Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, that's new age talk. I've been accused of being new ager too. So I'm like, I got to be careful what I say here because I'm definitely not that, but that's a new age idea. But it's the mafia, right? So another quick little interesting point here is how the government works is the authority, order giver, order taker mentality. This is how they get away with this karmic, they get away with not having a massive amount of karmic debt. And I'll use that word as for lack of a better term. Okay. So what the order givers do, and if you can picture like, Bill Clinton and George W. Bush and all those guys, at a table talking about how they're going to, raid a country and kill an entire village of people to make some kind of political point or something, right? They're having drinks and talking about it. And they go, okay, they have that discussion. Then on this frame over here, you have all this military coming in with, helicopters and bombs and shooting, and they kill all these innocent people. And the end result of it is, all these living people carrying their children that are bleeding and dying. And at the end of it, what basically are the presidents saying? They're over here saying, well, my actions didn't cause that. Okay. And then the order followers over here going, well, my actions didn't cause that, because they're saying, I just took orders. I'm just taking orders over here. But then
just doing my job.
Right. The givers of the order going, well, I didn't do one thing. All I said was go do this. And you listened to me, and I'm relieved of karma now because I physically didn't actually go cause this harm to somebody. This is the major dilemma of authority and how the order giving and the order taking works. Our whole society is built this way, or it's alleviating people liability for their own actions, taking responsibility for their own self. This is the real freedom I'm talking about. The real truth is that if anybody who just willingly, willy-nilly takes somebody else's order and goes and does it, there was a study that came out, I forget the name of it now, where they actually had authority figures tell people to go do things completely immoral, or ask, they didn't actually go do it, they asked them, would you kill somebody if you were told by this person? It was a big study. It was like 90% of the people who said, I would kill somebody if I had to, if authority figure of this magnitude told me to do it, I would do it. I'm going to find that study because that was a really interesting thing, because this is where we're at in society right now, is that we're in this, follow authority. We're steeped in eugenics right now. And this is one of the things that we need to understand, that this is what's happening, and try to figure out on an individual level how we can pull ourselves out of this, okay, mentally as individuals, like empowerment, truth, understanding of our world and what we're living in is going to be part of that answer. And it's not easy. It's hard. It's devastating. I'm in tears sometimes, when I think about it, but it has to be done. There's no option. There's no choice.
I agree. I think they have us pay their karma. And what you're saying right there, it made me think of like Game of Thrones. They do this through games too. Like when that was out and really big, you'll see these games on Facebook. Game of Thrones game. If you were presented with this situation, what would you do? Or like The Walking Dead, if it was up to you and this other person, and there was a little bit of food, and you were, what would you do? Would you kill them? It's like it's just pushing us to make decisions we wouldn't normally make and normalizing them, and it's just really bothersome for me. But
That's
Which is
called
part
double
of the
bind.
program. Yeah.
The double bind technique. They use that for people. Basically, they get the same result they want, but they give you several choices. Both seem like they're different, but it ultimately gets the person who's giving you the choice what they want anyway. So it's like a good car sale. Work
Right.
double bind on you to get the sale,
And it's a distraction from good decisions that you would make.
yeah, and it gives them approval for what they do. If you're agreeing, yeah,
Yeah.
I would do that too if I was in that situation. Then it gives approval for them to. It's like a form of compliance, like the fear is.
Right. And if you think about it, it's like it puts you in a box where you only have two choices. So the person being given the test is, oh, I only have two choices. No, remember who you are. You have unlimited choices.
Yep.
So most people will stay in the box, stay focused on the two choices given, because everything else would be, wrong.
Yep.
And that's a programming, that everything else would be wrong. You're always supposed to color within the lines, that kind of thing. Gosh, I just want to jump in on this 7 deadly sins that you brought up, because like these would all be like, yeah, psychopath stuff, but also it can get confusing for some people, because we can do, each of us can do each of these 7 deadly sins to ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? We can coerce ourselves, we can lie to ourselves, we can steal from ourselves. Like when we go against ourselves, we're stealing our own peace of mind.
Yeah.
For example, we can murder ourselves or parts of ourselves by compartmentalizing, and we're just going to shut that shit down, right? I could probably go a little more into that, but I won't. Assault ourselves, it's all that negative thinking, judgment, self-judgment, self-flagellation, rape ourselves. I mean, that can be done in multiple ways. Doesn't just have to be sexual assault, and trespass. When we go against ourselves, we are constantly trespassing ourselves. When we give up us to because someone else says they need this or that, it's just going against ourselves. These are all ways we go against ourselves. And that is That is never addressed. It's actually taught, it's not addressed. And when other things aren't addressed and we go in internally, especially as children, this is where we start these behaviors to ourselves. When we're in a power, like as children, we're in a physically powerless state. And by the time we get to adults, we're now mentally powerless.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a beautiful point you just made there. How we're born into a world where we are taught to be self-psychopaths, basically.
Yes. To the best of our ability.
To the best of our ability.
You know?
Boy, it's amazing. Wow.
The order given and the order taken. I wanted to jump over there too. Not give you time to process that big.
One more thing.
Yeah.
The self-psychopath, that was one of the best statements on here besides the,
Yeah.
you're saying too, Logan. Well, the other one was when you said you're working full-time just to survive, and then you're supposed to do self-care, and that's gaslighting. God, I love that. Anyway, let's move on.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I did want to say about the order given, order taken people. You know, that ties into, you know, we have this thing where we, you know, we give people responsibility to rule over us or to make laws, or, you know, depending on where you live, depends on what it's called. But in all seriousness, most of us here on the planet, and I realize that we are, what do we have? We're almost up to 8 billion people on this planet. But I don't even believe that these are all souls. I really don't. I'm looking at maybe 30%, even at 30%. Most of the 30% that are souls. I don't know why I went there. Let's erase that. I'm just thinking that even responsibility over for other people's lives. You know, nobody, I don't know anyone on this planet that's mature enough to handle the responsibility of other people's lives. We struggle with the responsibility for our own lives. And just because you put on a suit or a white coat or glamorous clothes does not automatically make you the responsible one or the intelligent one or the authority.
That's right.
Just wanted to say that.
That's awesome. 100%. We all are kind of, you know, suffering to some degree or another Stockholm syndrome.
Yes. Yes.
And I think it's alleviating yourself or disassociating from that, from the abuser. And that's what it's like living in this society, you know, is understanding that and pulling away from. It's like being in a bad relationship. It takes a lot to get out of that.
It does.
Yeah.
And there is a mourning that goes with that, which I brought up in the beginning. And that is not because it was such a good relationship and it's such a loss of the relationship. It is the loss of ourself during that time, you know. So there is the 5 stages of grief that you would go through, you know, the depression, well, the denial, the depression, the anger, you know, and the sadness, and then the acceptance, you know, and then we have to build back the strength to go, hey, let's remember who we are. We are warriors. I've been convinced for decades that I was not, that I was small, that I was only human. And human is the last thing we are.
You are so nailed that 100%. It's the last thing we are. We're
Right?
sentient spiritual beings expressing that through a physical body, which is actually photonic light. It's actually where our really truly light is what we are, you know?
And what does the dark want to do with light? put it out.
Put it out.
So it is that coercion, that lying to us, that stealing our light.
Oh, and they murder us because they make us die and then they recycle us back in. So
Yes, I've been
they don't
here
murder
many
us, they murder us
times.
Anyway, we're in a world of death.
I'm
Yeah.
an old
Murder
soul.
each other to survive.
You're
And there
right.
are souls on this planet that this is the first time they've come in here. You know, so those of us that have been here multiple times, gosh, I don't know if that's what makes it easier to see what's going on now. It's like,
But I
oh,
think you cycle through those stages of grief. It's not like you just go through them and then you're done. It's like you
No.
keep recycling.
yeah,
It's a lot of the problem many people are having, and that's why they want to escape or go to, let's ascend, let's go somewhere else, let's go to the newer.
Yeah.
But we have a positive future, I think, and it's
yes,
us creating it, creating hope. We have a window of time right now to do that. So I really think that's true, but I don't know.
yeah. And I think you're right that a lot of people want to escape, you know, or yeah. It goes back to they don't want to take responsibility. It's like, no, let's deal with what is. This is our planet.
Yep.
Real Earth is here. We need to get this other
It's been
crap
like
that
that.
they
Get this crap off. Let's get out of this. We got sucked through the black hole into this mind program.
right.
And then
And
they
so
put us into another and another and another and another.
right,
So you can't
right.
find a way out, but we will.
It's like a fucking circus. But
It's a shit show. It is definitely a
Shit
big
show.
old-
There we go.
Yeah.
We're cussing on this channel now.
yeah, sorry, that just came out.
I
Yeah.
don't-
But
I don't-
yeah. So I think that you know, stop trying to run and be with what is, and get strong enough to be responsible, be able to respond to ourselves and what we know, you know, be able to respond.
And ask for help. We're stronger together. Ask for help. Join with the other truthers, even if it's online.
Right.
Absolutely. We need to use technology. I mean, a lot of this technology is, I think has been kind of built to be not really a benefit for humanity, but really it's a massive benefit for humanity. And
So as we
take
show
advantage-
up, we bring our light to this dark technology,
That's right.
you know?
Good point.
That's right. I also wanted to add too, it's a little off topic as far as what we're just talking about now, but I think it's important too, the study of epigenetics. And I've talked about this before in other shows I've done in Eye of the Heart with some people who know a lot about epigenetics and who study this stuff. And I think it's really important for people to understand that we have been built with this Darwinism mode of thinking, which is survival of the fittest. And if you can look everywhere you go around, the corporations, you go to Publix or Sam's Club or Costco or any corporation is built, and everyone working has this mentality of, well, I'm going to start off making $10 an hour, and then I'm going to climb my way up the ladder no matter what immoral actions I have to take in order to get that $50 an hour. I'm going to do it, right? And this is where we've been built. Now, this is Darwin's theory of evolution and genes, where, and now we're talking about into eugenics, which is, we don't have anything to do with our genes. We're just born this way. We don't, I'm a less superior genetically, but that guy over there is really massively, look at him, he's huge and he's good looking and he's making $1 million a year. That's bullshit. And I'm telling you, epigenetics proving this. Now, Bruce Lipton has put his whole life, 60 years, Bruce Lipton has been studying cells and epigenetics and putting this out there to the world. And I think that he's been suppressed for a long, long time. But finally, his information and his books are starting to get out more. And I recommend for people to look into Bruce Lipton and epigenetics to understand that you are the conscious creator of your world. Once you break those chains away, empower yourself through the knowledge that the science is there to prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that Darwin's theory was crap. I mean, he even said it himself. There's a lot more that has to go into the study, which he didn't even actually do. Right, that to actually prove my theory or this theory, which never was proven. But we've been running on that model for over 100 years now. Now, finally, epigenetics is offering people real science, the real truth of how we are the conscious creators of our universe. It's really amazing. And same with Joe Dispenza. He's doing a lot of great work. These are some mainstream guys that get a lot of following, but I recommend them to a lot of people, if you haven't heard of them, to buy their books or look into them. and listen to their podcasts and the shows that they have on YouTube. Also, Greg Braden does a lot of really awesome stuff. He's I think he's like a geobiologist, but he's got some great information out there too. So, offer some really strong scientific insight into the things that we're talking about right now.
Well,
That
that's
sounds
right.
like,
Go ahead, Bev.
it sounds like that's another way of, uh, I thought of the caste system, where in some countries they have the caste system, I think in India. I don't know if it's still going there, but where you're slotted in. But I think the starting out at $10 an hour and then you work your way up, it's like, it's a way of slowing us down. This is how it is. Every once in a while you have someone who takes off in a whole nother direction. But I tell you, I just wanted to say too, that I really realized that, I didn't go to college until I was in my 50s, right? So one of the things that has been coming up or coming to my awareness a lot is there's so much conditioning in there. I don't know, I lost what I was going to say. Sorry. Yeah, it's not like everybody doesn't know that by now, that it is extreme conditioning. You're in your 20s most of the time when you're in college, but there is anyone who's starting to, in their adult life, starting to step out of the program. College is almost built to shut that down. But it's been sold as something that, you're a good parent if you get your kids into the right college or a good college. It's all about the college after school. But I've realized, no, that's just right before you're going out into your adulthood, they want to make sure that you're shut down. I just want to put that out there because I don't know what you said, but it just made me think of that. Like, I gotta say that.
I think a lot of young people, 20-year-olds, have brilliant ideas. I'm also thinking like of the survival of the fittest thing is like I've never wanted to do that. I don't want to compete. I don't like competing. Okay, you're gonna pay me more money, but this job sucks. I'm not doing it. And I don't care. It's like, go away. The life isn't about money. But then we all get forced to ask for money because so it's
Need money.
yeah, but or get envious of somebody. I pulled up a video of someone and it said how to avoid being envious. And I'm like, of other authors, I'm like, I'm not envious. Okay. But I think that a lot of truthers or people that are aware or awakening and stuff, they're not feeling this. They're not feeling like, okay, I have to do this survival of the fittest thing. I think some of the programs, especially with these new generations coming in, they're starting to break them. They're wearing down, and so they're just like cramming more on top of us. But oh boy, it ain't gonna work.
No. Yeah,
We have a
because
good future. I can feel it. I don't know why, but we're in the battle right now. We have a good future.
as people start coming out of the program, the awakening, and we start seeing that everybody has come here with gifts. Everyone is on an equal playing field. We are all souls and we all serve a purpose. It's not all the same purpose, but it's all the purpose. We're expressive beings. And everything we need can come to us organically. It doesn't take the struggle that this shit show has offered. Offered. As an infant, you can't really say, no thanks.
Oh my gosh. Yep. Well, amazing thoughts. It's like I was going to try to stay quiet, but I'm like, geez, I can't stay quiet.
No, and there is an excitement. I mean, it's kind of scary and kind of exciting at the same time. Um, I've had I've had people coming to my office this week that just, you know, that stuff that holds them into that place of smallness is just seems to be like forcing its way to the surface. So, Logan, when you said earlier that just us talking about this stuff, it is expansive. You know, it vibrates out. It you know it moves the ocean of lightness, and it's like it's to me it's good to see it. I know it's hard for them right now, but it's good to see. It's like this is movement on a larger scale. And so there was a part of me that thinks, oh my gosh, you know, there's a feeling that the almost like the gates are going to open for awakening. I don't know if that's, yeah, I don't know if that's true, but that's the feeling I have. And thank God I've gotten to the place in my life where, you know what, I'm going to trust my intuition. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize later. That's just where I'm at right now.
Hey,
Exactly.
Right?
hey, do it. And one of the most powerful things anybody can ever say is I'm wrong. So I was wrong,
Yeah.
or I'm wrong, or I was wrong, because, we're all here trying to figure these things out, doing the best we can to be, morally just
Yeah.
people, and to live out our sentient expressions, to their fullest capabilities. And, we're put in this crappy, holographic type matrix reality where, it just nothing makes sense. So we are going to stumble along the way, and everyone will stumble along the way. And it's the people who
Right.
say that was a mistake, I was wrong, I'm going to self-correct and figure out, the right thinking for this,
And the
that's a power.
reality is, oh, sorry.
No,
Go
I'm
ahead.
done. I'm done.
I was going to say the reality of this is none of us have ever lived this moment before. I mean, they can recycle us all they want. Um, well, I'm not giving you permission, but um, it's a different moment each moment, going through the same thing. So yeah, we're all learning. We're all doing our best at any given moment, and none of us have been in this moment before. So the illusion is, oh, uh, Joe over there has so much more experience. He seems to know what he's doing. Yeah. The truth is, nobody knows. None of us know what we're doing. None of us. None of us have ever been in this moment
We're
before
figuring it out.
where it's unfolding before us and we're just walking through it
Right.
and doing our best, making
Right.
choices along the way. It's
It's
really it's a gentle process.
Well, I know I talked about 5D and stuff because there was other people talking about it that were really big names. And I thought, well, this must be a thing. So I'd kind of talk about like that. I would just assume, okay, well, if we're going to 5D, but it never felt right. So I think we need to we're all in a
Yeah.
learning thing. And then I thought, well, maybe I should read on that and see what I really think instead of just taking these people's word for it.
Right.
You
And
know,
it doesn't make some of us less wise. I mean, there's some wisdom that we all came in with.
we got to
Other,
uncover it because they've mind wiped us.
yes.
We're getting there. We have a lot of pieces of truth and we're getting there. They're not going to be able to stop it. I think exactly what you said. It's like we've not been in this moment before because I think we're in this little section of time right now where we've passed the reset date and they weren't able to reset us. So now we're out of their control. So this is the time to wake up because it's not scripted.
Yes.
They're trying to. They're throwing us in loops to keep us on a script, like a loop script, but it's still really ultimately not scripted right now. So, anyway, I probably
Yeah.
got to run soon though, but do we have more to talk about?
I think we talked about a lot. I think that there's some great
Right?
good information in there. And I don't think you can get much more honest or authentic or truthful than, things that we talked about, because I mean, that's pretty much what's happening in the world. Very third dimensional stuff. It's not talking about anything. I think that when people who really are compelled, like myself, to expand consciously in awareness, that that we have to understand the world that we're living in first. And once we understand this to the best of our abilities, that's when the cracks start opening up to higher awareness. I don't personally think that there's just going to be this big solar flash and it's going to be 7, 8D. And then suddenly, the people who can't handle it, well, I don't know. And the people who can are going to be floating around light bodies. I do not even see that remotely as anything possible.
I'm
Sorry.
not laughing. I'm sorry.
I think we have a lot to figure out as human beings, what's going on right now, that you find your freedom right here in your heart, figure this stuff out. And then you'll begin to see more truth. The intuitive aspects of your spirit will bring you what you need to know for truth. And Beverly, you're so totally right. It's all about, every moment is completely different. And really, we're just running around here figuring it out just like everybody else. And I think the people who do wear the white coats and all that kind of stuff, I think they're just good at pretending like they actually know what's going on, more than anything. But at the end of the day, we got to figure out what's going on and be honest with ourselves. What our purpose is, what our duty is here as conscious creators of this planet. What can we do to fully express that as human beings? I think that's.
Well, I think those white coats, they have their piece of they're bringing forward too. So you break your arm, they can fix your arm, whatever. I mean, they have everybody's got their piece. They're not the be all end all though.
Right.
I agree. I was in the hospital for 2 days. I was hospitalized because I got had a really bad infection in my nose and it was going to my brain. And this was right before COVID happened. It was January 2020. And I thought I was going to die. I was like, well, I guess this is it. I'm like writing letters, writing a letter, how much I love everybody and everything. And if it wasn't for the hospital, going in there, I mean, granted, they just went in there and they just stuck an IV in me for 2 days straight. And it's like the strongest antibiotic they had, and it helped. And so I'm not saying, that the doctors are all bad.
I just want to clarify that because I knew.
Yeah. Good clarification. I do have a tendency to talk about in generalization term about
I do the same thing.
The Rockefeller Medical Institute that we're living in right now is a very dangerous one, although we are right now dependent upon it, because so I can't, I mean, they, for all I know, saved my life, through that. If it wasn't for the hospital, I didn't have like oils and things I could, knew that would take it down. So it was like, I went for the, the big medical.
Those are souls there that are working in those places, helping people. It's,
I think where it gets out of balance is when we over rely.
Yeah, that was the point. It's like they're not the answer to everything, but they have their piece of the puzzle that they're supplying.
Right. And if we take responsibility.
That's a great point. As a matter of fact, if people didn't buy into the pharmaceutical stuff so much and actually had good self-care, that we'd be less reliant on the current medical establishment, which would push a new model into play for what the medical establishment is. It really, because here we go again, where it's really us as a conscious collective that we're actually allowing these things to happen by participating in it. And if we don't participate in it and really do self-care in the best way and find the best things for us, we won't have a need to go to the doctor. We won't need the anxiety pills. We won't need the prescriptions for all this stuff or any of it. And then that will push a movement. It will push them. They'll have to make a new format of how they actually operate, for sure.
That's the game though, the survival of the fittest. So you're working your butt off so you can't do self-care.
Yeah, I know. It's a hard role. It is. It's a tough one, but hey, we can figure it out.
We're going to figure it out. We're already. And
yeah,
we got this.
We got it.
Humanity's got this.
Your soul energy out. You're like a vast being. Don't forget it.
That's correct.
Right. And because I work with people to get back in touch with themselves, trust themselves a little more, and then a little bit more. and then more and more, just keep breaking, you know, it's like when you're traumatized, there's pieces of yourself scattered. So bringing those back in,
Yep.
and you're just taking back your power, basically. Recognize and definitely, stay connected to your creator. Because that's what's holding, that's where the cord is connected. you know, um, these jokers can't keep this up if we all woke up and really claimed our power, who we really are. Stop being small. Stop playing small.
Yeah, that's what I named my channel. Truth meter, question everything, trust yourself. So I don't know if that's still up there anymore. We changed the branding, but
no, but that is the message, and I like that. You're right on the mark with that. It's about trust yourself. Um,
Yeah. Can you imagine what would have happened if nobody complied with the mask wearing at the beginning of all this? Everyone's like, no, I'm not. These people who are running have been like, oh my gosh, we're screwed right now. Or nobody goes and gets the jab, or nobody pays.
There would have been no,
right?
This wouldn't have happened if we didn't wear the mask.
Yeah, actually, you're right. It wouldn't have happened. That they would have stopped it right there. I'm like, oh man, these people they know what's going on.
And I would have had more confidence in human beings. This whole
the
like
robotoids to wear them, and then we look at the robotoids and
That's
go,
true.
everybody else is doing it.
That's true.
That's a good point. You have all those soulless people out there that probably are more than the percentage of real actual, living souls in this planet that, that's how they are able to do a lot of this stuff. Or trickery was because
follow the leader.
Trickery. And they've got it, the message going out in different areas, like all the colleges, okay, programming strong there. And then you've got all the ones who sit home and watch TV. You add those two up, that's a large part of the population.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
Yeah.
All the people looking at Hollywood, throw that group in, and a lot of them are in more than one of those groups. So they're getting it left and right. But it's all been in preparation all this time. Not to mention, if you notice that, drugs became legal in a lot of places right before all this too. That's all part of the rollout as far as,
if people want to escape, here's drugs. You can escape this way.
Creating docility, because, you're not going to stand up and fight back if you're worried about getting busted.
Yeah.
That's just not going to happen. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We can go on and on.
I know.
That's mind blowing.
I never called the cops when I was, I would comply when I was using, because I didn't want to be.
You don't want to call because you get busted.
Yeah. So you just comply or hide out or whatever.
That's a good point.
Yep.
And so, and they've been shipping drugs here.
Long time.
A long time.
They traffic drugs along with the
people
ones.
Yeah. I guess the last value I heard placed on them is like they get $5,000 a person, for bringing them across the border. The coyotes do, or the smugglers do. Each person is worth at least 5,000.
From what I heard, that is as far as the elites go, and I don't even really like to use that term. Tracy reminded me, don't say that term. You're empowering them by saying that.
That's true.
But these people who have endless supply of they really don't even operate on the same financial scheme we do. And what I heard is that their biggest commodity is the trafficking. That's the biggest thing that they operate in, and it's absolutely sickening when you look at the rates 800,000 people or children in America alone disappearing every year. And I'm sure that
Yeah.
number is much higher. That's what they're letting you see, when you look up this information. That's a lot of children. That's just a lot of, that's a whole nother, probably a whole nother conversation that we probably don't want to get into, but
I know.
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's a good point that that's the number they let you see, you know. And when I say 5,000, I'm like, okay, that's just for the initial transport. What about, there will be some that will be used multiple times a
Yeah.
destination, and some that will have a one-time use.
yeah, that's one of the major things that I really want to see taken down somehow or another. I think when people begin to understand that our society is actually, it's a satanic society, and these people who are running things run things from the satanic tenets, is what all those tenets that we talked about, those mindsets.
Yes.
I didn't say this, but those are the 4 tenets of Satanism, is what they are. So people who adopt that mindset are falling into the soft form of that belief structure. The higher ranking people, it's dark sorcery, and they're using these tactics as dark sorcery methods to hypnotize people and brainwash people into doing exactly what they want them to do. And you go up higher. I mean, there's probably like dark Luciferian sorcery, people who are really doing these ritualistic things that are horrible to people. And I've listened. There's a guy named Jay Parker, and he's a satanic ritual abuse survivor, and he talks out about it a lot now. And he's got a YouTube channel. He's done a lot of actual like big presentations to people. Jay Parker, he's a great person to listen to. He will give you a world of insight into what that society is like. And he pretty much tells you they rule the world. They run the police departments. They run everything. And what amazing story, this guy. And if you want to look into that, that's a great guy to look into, to hear his story. But pretty much the mafia Nazi is what runs the world. At least for the States, are the ones blowing up buildings and doing all the legwork. And then you got the Satanists, the high-ranking ones that are telling them what to do. The ones that are in these secret societies, like the ones that George W. Bush and all these people are in, that are just patsies for the higher orders, that go up and up. Jesuit order and beyond, like you get up high.
All that we should mention, but yeah, that's basically, you hit it on the head, mafias.
I like to call them the self-appointed rulers of the world.
That's exactly what they are.
That make all this money and people worship them, and I want to be like them, and I got to study their methods. They're making money because they're just funneling it off of us, off of your back, your slave labor, you working every day. They just funnel all that money directly to them. You give it to a charity. Guess what? Those big charities, it all goes back to that. Everything goes back to them. They're not freaking doing anything special. And if they're investing in the stock market, they already have inside information. It's all controlled. It's
rigged.
There's nothing for you to learn from these people or to mimic or follow, unless you want to become a soulless being. And then you've lost your true power. So now you got to do black magic and summon stuff and manipulate, and you got to constantly keep that crap up, and you're going to be miserable. Actually, you're not even going to be here anymore, because they're going to take your freaking soul, and you're going to be an empty vessel that they occupy. You're not even going to be living it. So you're going to be somewhere else getting tortured. So anyway, it's just all pointless. It's their game, like you're saying. It's the whole thing.
Might as well take yourself out of the game, because if you try to play that, anybody tries to play that game, you are below the bottom rung. And to get up that pyramid on the dollar bill, you're basically saying, take my soul from me. I want you to extract this from me, and I'll be a mindless zombie who goes and does really horrific things and breaks every immoral law that exists in the universe.
If you think about it, there's absolutely no meaning to that type of life. There's no joy.
I do know somebody that is very, very brilliant and good at figuring things out, working his butt off, and making really good money, to the point where, suddenly he gets an invite to a thing with Jeff Bezos. It's like, because they're going to start to notice you, and they're either going to shut you down or you're going to be part of the club. And it's like, no thanks. Yeah. so much more powerful than these people. But we've been brainwashed to think money is power and whatever. But
Yes, that's a
we need it
program
right
too,
now. We're all forced to need it.
as opposed to
But
just
we're
seeing
gonna
it as a form of currency rather than power. It's just a form of currency.
exactly.
Yep. Even the word money itself, you know, it's means one eye, right? Mono, eye, money is, you know,
Oh, you're so smart. I didn't even.
they really drive these things in the front, in
Yeah,
everyone's
that
face.
is funny.
You know what? I had a visual yesterday because I was trying to visualize with somebody, and I visualized like, what are we in? And I just saw it real fast. I saw one eye, and then it turned into a black hole that was trying to suck me in with all these like snaky things. It was like a mind program. And I was like, nope, I'm turning back around. So there's something more to this whole one eye thing than we realize. But
Oh, it's amazing. The masonry, you know, the checkerboard, the masonry checkerboard, that is, it means confusion and ignorance. And anybody who, and it depends on how it's situated to, like, you know, like laterally or flat or whatever, how they use the checkerboard techniques. But you notice like the cops in Europe, they all wear the checkerboard around their
Oh yeah.
caps. And it's
they
basically, it's
do.
mockery. It's like, you know, the ignorant, you know, dog here is we're gonna put the symbol of hypnosis right on this person's head without them even questioning what it is.
Wow.
And there's so much of this stuff when you really look out
Right.
there, like the symbolism is, we live in a world of symbolism. Like look at Monday through Sunday. Man,
Yeah.
every holiday is built upon, you know, Mars and Jupiter and Saturn and, you know, the sun and all this stuff. We're living in an occulted, and I want to say occult is not a bad thing. It just means hidden knowledge, but we're living in a dark occulted world where you can look even a clock, what the clocks represent, the shorthand, the longhand, and the seconds is representing the movement of, you know, the planet and Mercury around, around the sun. You know, I mean, that's basically what that means. It's going around. We've adopted a clock symbol to mean, you know, basically old, you know, worship of different, deities and gods of Saturn and all this different stuff. It's wild.
The astrology is kind of like their script, so you can follow that. But when you said those seven actual, what'd you say, the seven deadly sins?
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, seven real.
lying. So, and
The
I'm like,
same.
yeah, we're in a world of lies. Like everything's a lie. Of course it is, because
Yeah.
that's one of their qualities, their characteristics. It's who they are.
Well, it's almost like everything has been taken and twisted
Everything's
or
a
mirrored.
lie.
Yeah. Because I'm sure that they did not create
They're not
all of
creators,
this.
but we're too smart
Exactly.
for them. So they're not
Right.
going
I think that these people have no creative ability, zero. All they can do is take and recreate what the creative people have created. The real humans, real conscious people create. This is what our
Yes.
gift from our creator is that we have the ability to create.
Yes.
And this is what consciousness is and wants to do. These people suppress that because they can't create. They steal this stuff and then they invert it.
Yes.
And that's that. And the inversion, the inversion point, and why I think that people have really, the inverted aspects comes from the four tenets here, which is self-preservation, moral relativism, social Darwinism, and eugenics. And they take these things and they create a reality around it. So then everything else that offshoots from that is really real, it doesn't seem like it. It looks confusing because it's relative. Everyone looks at everything as being relative all of a sudden, when nothing is. It's really actually truly objective. Everything is really truly objective.
I have a question.
Sure.
Are you going to write a book?
I think I told you I started writing a book and I have not picked it back up again.
With all that stuff, you gotta get that written.
I do. It's like I gotta, again, you know, I get stuck into that trap of that time trap, and I'm trying to do as much as I can, researching stuff that I can, listening to as many people as I possibly can, and pulling as much truth as I can see and that kind of stuff, and talking about it like this with awesome people like you guys, and making little videos here and there and trying to share my truth. I think I need to be way more proactive personally with getting information out. And right now I'm just on YouTube, and I think I need to get on like Library or BitChute or things like that and try to get a little bit more truth going out there, just because I think that it's important for everybody to
Time is super hard. I have no time.
Time's hard. I work a 40-hour plus. I mean, 50, 60-hour schedule sometimes,
Wow.
plus, with the kids and trying to get stuff and, doing fun things. And so, yeah, I mean, doing this type of stuff, like researching, it's exciting to me because I want to know the truth. But as far as getting the information out and putting the time into doing that, I have no other reason to do it except to get the information out and hopefully to inspire other people to do the same thing, because I think that is what's going to change the world. It's gonna be one of the things that does it, not at all, but it's going to be the talking about it and people getting
Right.
stop being like, afraid, like people who are awake. There's a lot of awake people. It's like, come on, don't be afraid. Just, start off small, use your phone. If you don't have the money, just use your phone to the video, record some things, make a YouTube channel or whatever, and get your truth out there and start doing it. Because once you break that fear, then you're starting to feel alive. All of a sudden you're like, wow, I feel alive. I feel like I'm doing stuff. I'm breaking down these barriers and these walls inside of myself by just being honest with myself, and uncovering these truths,
And this would be part of the deprogramming of others, as well as self. Because if you think about like what it has taken for them to program us and make sure people are programmed, how many commercials did you used to see on TV when you were watching that? How much programming has gone into each of us individually. So I guess it's true that the more truth that goes out through the airwaves, the better.
Yeah. Starting
Right?
a very small starting point, and that's what with this technology, I think this is going to be the main benefit for people is we're going to use this technology to really talk to other people, to get out there, to form this conscious collective community of truth and freedom, and it will start to shape itself. It will. Our collective consciousness is creation. It is our creator. It's what our gift we've been bestowed upon, right? It's a law, right? And it will start to formulate things. Next thing you know, who knows, a year from now, 2 years from now, all of a sudden these ideas start coming to me. I'm like, oh, I got to start doing this. And Annemarie does it. Beverly, you're doing it. Wow, I don't even know where this information's coming from. And you can start to see like neuron synapses happening in a brain.
Yes.
New pathways are being formed and firing. But this happens as a collective also, not just in our brains individually,
Right.
but in the ether. This is how that happens, so.
And that's how we all got drawn together today.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, really.
By the
That's
way,
so
thanks for
awesome.
inviting me, Logan.
Yeah, well, thanks for doing this to
Beautiful.
both of you.
Organizing
I've been looking forward to having this conversation and getting onto the psychological role of the
Yeah.
warfare happening here on that level. And you guys are amazing, so much. You understand so much and are full of knowledge with everything that you do and say. And so I'm excited it was
Likewise.
exciting to be able to talk to you guys today. So maybe we can do this again sometime, and we'll maybe pick some other topics we can talk about. And
Right.
All right,
Because there's so much more.
I'm going to shut us off here.
yeah, I'm going to turn us off too. And